There is a kind of pain that many people carry, but they do not always know how to name it. They call it stress. They call it confusion. They call it overthinking. They call it feeling lost, drained, or emotionally tired. But sometimes, underneath all of that, the real pain is something deeper. It is self-betrayal. It is the pain of going against yourself too many times. The pain of knowing what you feel, but pretending you do not. The pain of staying silent when something matters. The pain of saying yes when your whole body is saying no. The pain of choosing what is comfortable, acceptable, or familiar even when it costs you your peace. And the truth is, self-betrayal often hurts more than rejection. Because rejection comes from outside of you, but self-betrayal happens inside. Today, I want to talk about that. About why going against yourself creates such deep exhaustion, why many people abandon themselves without even realizing it, and why coming back to yourself may be one of the most important forms of healing. A lot of people think their pain comes mainly from how others treat them. And yes, sometimes other people do hurt us, sometimes they leave. Sometimes they misunderstand us, sometimes they disappoint us, sometimes they fail to love us the way we hoped they would, but often the deepest wound is not just what they did. It is how many times we ignored ourselves in order to keep them, how many times we accepted what felt wrong, how many times we stayed when we knew we were shrinking, how many times we explained away our own discomfort just to avoid conflict, loss, or loneliness. That is what makes self-betrayal so painful. It is not always one dramatic moment. Sometimes it is a series of small abandonments. You laugh when something hurts. You say it's fine when it is not. You stay available when you are already drained. You make yourself smaller to stay accepted. You avoid truth because truth might change things. You keep choosing what keeps the peace outside even if it creates unrest inside. And maybe from the outside, life still looks normal. Maybe you are functioning, maybe you are smiling, maybe you are still showing up. But inside, something starts to feel heavy because the soul knows when it is being ignored. And eventually, that inner tension turns into exhaustion. This is why some people feel deeply tired, even when they cannot explain exactly why. It is not only because life is busy, it is because they have been living too long in ways that are not true. They have been carrying conversations they never finished, boundaries they never set, truths they never said, feelings they never allowed, needs they never honored, and all of that creates pressure. Because every time you betray yourself, a part of you loses trust. A part of you starts to wonder, will you protect me? Will you listen when something feels wrong? Will you tell the truth when it matters? Will you leave what is harming you? Will you choose peace even if it is inconvenient? And if the answer keeps being no, something inside you becomes less steady. This is why self-trust matters so much. People often talk about confidence as if it is something loud, as if confidence is about speaking boldly, looking certain, or having a strong presence. But real confidence often begins much more quietly. It begins when you stop abandoning yourself. It begins when you start listening to your own signals, when you stop talking yourself out of what you clearly feel. When you stop making excuses for what repeatedly drains you, when you stop betraying your own limits to be loved, accepted, admired, or needed. That is the beginning of inner stability. But for many people, this is hard. Because self-betrayal usually did not begin as weakness. It began as adaptation. Maybe you learned early that honesty caused tension. Maybe you learned that being easy to handle kept relationships smoother. Maybe you learned that your needs were too much. Maybe you learned that love came easier when you were quiet, useful, agreeable, or emotionally convenient. So you adapted. You became skilled at reading the room. You became skilled at keeping the peace. You became skilled at swallowing what you felt in order to stay connected. And maybe those patterns protected you once, but what protects you in one chapter can imprison you in another. Because later in life, those same habits begin to cost you. Now, instead of protection, they create disconnection. Now, instead of safety, they create numbness. Now, instead of preserving love, they prevent honesty. And that is where many people get stuck. They want peace, but they keep choosing what disconnects them from themselves. They want clarity, but they keep living in ways that require denial. They want self-respect, but they keep negotiating it away for temporary comfort. And the body feels all of this. That is something people underestimate. The body feels the conversations you avoided. It feels the resentment you keep bearing. It feels the pressure of pretending. It feels the tension of smiling through what hurts. It feels the cost of staying where you no longer feel safe, aligned, or respected. This is why self-betrayal does not only hurt emotionally, it often shows up physically too. Restlessness, tightness, exhaustion, brain fog, irritability, a strange heaviness that follows you even when nothing dramatic is happening. Because pretending takes energy, performing takes energy, silencing yourself takes energy, and eventually you pay for it. So, what does it mean to stop betraying yourself? It does not mean becoming harsh. It does not mean cutting everyone off. It does not mean reacting dramatically to every feeling. It means becoming honest enough to stop going against what you already know in your deeper self. It means admitting this relationship drains me, this habit is hurting me, this environment no longer fits me, this pace is unsustainable, this silence is costing me too much. And once you admit that, the next step is courage. Because truth by itself is not always enough. You also have to act on it. That is the hard part. You have to say no sometimes. You have to disappoint people sometimes. You have to leave what is familiar sometimes. You have to stop asking comfort to keep living where your spirit feels cramped. And yes, that may create loss, it may create awkwardness, it may create misunderstanding, but those things are often lighter than the long-term cost of abandoning yourself. That is what many people realize too late. They spend years trying to avoid rejection from others, but in doing so, they create rejection within themselves. And inner rejection is a painful thing, because when you do not stand by yourself, life starts to feel unstable even when everything looks fine from the outside. You begin doubting yourself more easily, you seek more reassurance, you overthink more, you feel more emotionally scattered, you tolerate what you should question, you stay in situations longer than your peace can afford. And all because some part of you no longer believes you will truly show up for yourself. But the beautiful thing is that self-trust can be rebuilt slowly, quietly, choice by choice. Every time you tell the truth instead of pretending, you rebuild it. Every time you honor a limit, you rebuild it. Every time you walk away from what harms you, you rebuild it. Every time you stop making yourself smaller to be loved, you rebuild it. Every time you listen to your inner discomfort instead of dismissing it, you rebuild it. And with that, something changes. You become calmer, not because life becomes perfect, but because you are no longer fighting yourself all the time. You become clearer. Not because every answer arrives, but because you stop drowning out your own voice. You become stronger, not because you become hard, but because your inner life becomes more honest. And maybe that is what healing really is, not just recovering from what others did, but ending the ways you kept leaving yourself behind in order to survive it. So if something has felt heavy lately, maybe ask yourself this: where have I been betraying myself? Where am I saying yes out of fear? Where am I staying silent to avoid discomfort? Where am I pretending not to know what I already know? Those questions can change a life, because the moment you stop betraying yourself, even in small ways, peace begins to return, not all at once, but truly. And maybe that is the real lesson here. Rejection from others may hurt, disappointment may hurt, change may hurt, loss may hurt, but nothing drains the soul quite like repeatedly abandoning yourself. So come back. Come back to your truth. Come back to your limits. Come back to your needs. Come back to your inner voice. Come back to the part of you that has been waiting for you to finally listen. Because maybe the peace you are searching for is not only in being loved better by others. Maybe it begins with no longer leaving yourself.